Good morning or good afternoon, folks. My name is Joe Furla, and I'm going to be leading today's masterclass from Fragmented to Unified, how UEM transforms IT efficiency and resilience. We are going to quickly go ahead and get started with some housekeeping items like agenda and such. And then we'll dive into the presentation. Before we go ahead and get started there, though, if you could please, within the questions pane, shoot me a quick notification that you are able to hear me. It'd be much appreciated, as I don't want to start with any audio issues. Awesome. Okay. We'll go ahead and continue. All right, so today's agenda, we've got pretty action-packed agenda of what we're going to see. We're going to go through why UEM, or Unified Endpoint Management, what are the advantages, core components of the benefits, getting the most out of your UEM, latest trends in UEM, and then we'll go through a live demo of our Incentral platform. At the end, we do have space for questions. However, please note, I'm not the biggest fan of keeping questions till the end. That's never fun. So if we're going through something and you have a question that pops up or piques your interest, please just go ahead and ask that in the questions pane. We'll pause, we'll take a look at the question, we'll answer it if necessary. If it's something I'm going to cover a little bit later in the presentation, I'll let you know and continue moving forward. Okay. And then, of course, we'll have the ability to recap at the end. So, quick introduction to myself. Again, my name's Joe Furla. I've been here at Enable for 8 years now. Started with the company as an account manager. I was hired way back in the SolarWinds days, right after the LogicNow acquisition. And I spent some time there before being given the opportunity to move to the sales engineer role, where I was the first account manager to move to sales engineer. And spent quite some time there. Some of you may be familiar with Jamie Smith. He was our director and spent some time on his team. From there, I was given the opportunity and enabled to create the partner success management team. And I was one of the original 6 to do that. And then my final step here at Enable has been to head nerd. I am traditionally the insight and Mac and operational efficiency head nerd. However, I do step in from time to time to help Paul Kelly and Jason Murphy, our Incentral head nerds. I am their backup. If you are unfamiliar with me, you'll also see me in the Enable world working with things like MDR, Take Control, MSP Manager, Mailisher, Cove, our backup solution, sales and marketing, and the like. I'm really the generalist on the team. And more important than that, however, on this screen is you'll see my contact information. You'll have to excuse my logos need some updating here. But if you ever have any questions about Enable, its product, if you have any questions about the MSP market as a whole, feel free to reach out. You can get me joseph.furla@enable.com via email. You can find me on Reddit as Head Nerd Joe. Again, should have a logo update there. My apologies. And you can catch me on LinkedIn as Joe Furla. One of the nice things about the Nerds team in their entirety is that we are not Enable specific. Sure, we work at Enable. Yes, we know Enable product very well, but we are all experts in specific portions of the market, and our intention is to help generate a healthy and educated market. So even if you're not using any Enable product currently, or you're not planning on using any, please do still feel free to reach out to the Nerds staff. With all of that being said and our introductions handled quite nicely. Let's go ahead and jump into the reason we are here. And that's going to boil down to why unified endpoint management and what are the benefits that we get from it. So, first things first, we might as well define what we are talking about. And unified endpoint management, what is it? It is an approach that brings together the management, security, and maintenance of all endpoints across platforms under a single cohesive strategy. It aims to streamline operations, unify IT and security workflows, and ensure consistent oversight from configuration to remediation. And this is something that we're seeing more and more as we are working across the MSP, the internal IT, or just the IT space in general. I just got back from the Exchange Security Conference where we had our CISO, Dave McKinnon, talking in our boardrooms. And one of the things that he was continually mentioning is the siloization, to make up a word, or the separation between security and IT services or support services is more and more disappearing. Dave, as our CISO, drives our CIO's day-to-day work, right? Our CIO is performing a lot of things that are going to be considered security, even though they're quote-unquote IT work, right? Easy example of this is conditional access. The security team is going to create the policies, come in with anything for client compliance, adherence, and the like. The IT team is more than likely going to be the team that goes and looks at implements. So we're seeing this blending of what was at one point individual teams across this IT space. Now, that's not to say we're not going to need specialists in the future, right? We are still going to continue to need security analysts or engineers or the like, right? But we're starting to see those jobs more and more and more overlap. And unified endpoint management and the advantages of such are how we start to combat this. And the three pillars of what we're going to call unified endpoint management are going to be centrally manage and secure all endpoints. And this is how we are going to gain, or what we're going to use to gain unified control over our Windows, Mac, and Linux devices, mobile devices, cloud or virtual, it does not matter, and bring them into a single platform. We're then going to use that platform to look at applying our policies and our rules. We're going to look at using that platform to monitor all of those devices. We're going to look at enforcing security consistently across the environment utilizing that platform. The other pillar is streamlined operations across IT and security. Right? And again, we talk about how they're blurring the lines between them as we are moving forward in the environments and in the market we're in today. And the point of UEM is to bring them together under one roof. From things like vulnerability management and patching to general maintenance and compliance, UEM, or Unified Endpoint Management, is designed to simplify day-to-day operations and service delivery. Our goal is to minimize our manual effort and enable faster and more coordinated responses and remediations or actions from those teams as the lines between them continue to blur more and more. And then what we're also looking at here is one tool. Now, that's not to say we're going to have one piece of software in our solution stack, but that is to say that we need a single tool that's going to look at bringing all of the software in our tech stack together. Right? We're going to leverage a single tool. In this particular case, we'll be looking at it in Central to deploy, to manage configurations, to enforce access controls, monitor device health, remediate issues across your environment. And we're going to centralize that management and administration, reducing our integration gaps and ensuring consistent and standardized execution across the board for our various teams. It's also going to allow us to have a much deeper data pool as a single source to bring in reporting, so that we can now start to look at doing things like more complicated data analytics on the environments that we are managing. We can start identifying gaps. As an MSP, identifying those gaps can lead to sales opportunities, can lead to account management opportunities, can lead to QBRs and executive business reviews that bring in future planning and project creation. For internal IT, it can allow you to identify those gaps and more secure your environment where you may be lacking, or it will allow you to start looking at generating and proposing projects to increase your security or increase your compliance coverage across the devices you're working with. Okay. And we talk about these pillars with unified endpoint management, not because we just want to look at pushing an RMM, right? But because we're seeing challenges across the IT space that each of these pillars has hit on as we're moving forward to this more unified platform, right? We talk about consistent reporting and consistent data access and centralized data access, right? Opening up and showing us security gaps. We talk about bringing our software stack into that one unified platform. This allows us to minimize tool spread and complexity, right? If I can automate out of a single platform remediation and response to certain things like daily, weekly, monthly maintenance, or my top 10 tickets, and I can bring that ticketing solution in with automated responses and actions, right? I'm minimizing that kind of tech debt and that tool sprawl that we're going to have. Okay. The unified endpoint management, when we talk about standardization of service delivery, we talk about standardization of maintenance, we talk about the ability to automate as much as we can. Right? What we're doing here is we're taking repetitive and redundant or manual IT tasks off the plate of our technicians and putting them into a position to be able to start flexing their muscles and do what they really want to do, and that's manage and support tech. If I've automated my top 5 tickets, that means I'm freeing up my tier 1s, my tier 2s, my tier 3s, or maybe some engineers to start saying, okay, here is the 5 most repetitive tasks that we perform across our environments on a day-to-day basis. Here's 3 pieces of PowerShell that can look at handling those 5 items. How can we disperse them? How can we standardize the execution of them? And what tools can we use, in this case, that UEM platform, to make sure that we are just monitoring to make sure that task is done, a 5-minute job, compared to touching every device to perform that task. Right? We're building efficiency and the ability to generate more efficiencies within our organization. Okay, and I know we look at challenges faced by IT teams that we're talking about here, and we see manual and repetitive tasks twice. I cannot stress enough how important this is. And when we look at MSPs, I have MSPs, more experience with them than internal IT. I look at MSPs, I want 70% of their day-to-day service delivery automated. Internal IT, where I would assume we are reasonably close to the same number. I don't want you guys to look at patching devices manually. That's not in our wheelhouse unless there's some out-of-band patch. We don't need to be looking at going in and making sure devices are rebooting manually. We don't need to look at cleaning up disk space, right? Deleting all temp files, removing all downloads older than 90 days, right? These are things that we can do through a unified endpoint management tool through those automation pieces, right? And then one of the more important things up here for MSPs as an easy note is inconsistent service delivery. If I can standardize scalable and repeatable service delivery, I breed retention into my MSP, because now my end users have a set expectation that is easily repeatable, easily obtainable, and they know what I am doing for them. It also removes how much they have to talk to us. And let's be honest, in the MSP space, end users really only talk to us when there's trouble. Right? In internal IT, while we may not be focused on retention, right? Your end users are employees, right? Retention isn't for you folks to worry about, it's for somebody else. But what we do want to do is ensure productivity and peace of mind. Internal IT, my job is to make sure that I am keeping my end users as productive as possible, and I am as disruptive averse as I can be, right? I want to automate, right? And a unified endpoint management platform is what brings us closer to that. Okay, MSPs, don't think productivity and peace of mind doesn't apply to you folks, because it's what you sell at your core. Productivity and peace of mind through the lens of cybersecurity. And anything that can help us increase our end users' productivity or our end users' peace of mind is quite a valuable item. So we look at the core components of what are going to be UEM. So we've taken those 3 pillars, addressed some of our challenges, and now we're looking at our core components. And the core components are pretty simple for us to think about, right? We have manage, secure, automate, and integrate. Any UEM platform or unified endpoint management platform needs to accomplish these 4 things. And it needs to accomplish them in an easy to scale, an easily repetitive, and an easily deployable fashion. When we look at manage, this is where we're going to have centralized policy-driven controls of diverse endpoints in our environments we are managing. We don't want to have a space where we manage our Windows devices. We have a space where we manage our Mac devices, our Linux devices, and hopping through all of these platforms. We want to bring this into a single platform. Modern UEM platforms provide unified visibility and management across physical, virtual, mobile, and cloud-based endpoints. Core capabilities from what we're going to see from a modern UEM platform is going to be things like full visibility across our OSs, cloud or virtual devices. Right, so again, Windows, Mac, or Linux. It's going to have the ability to look at auto-discovering and importing devices or managed endpoints into the solution so that you folks don't have to do that. And again, automate that repetitive and redundant work. We'll be able to configure management using templates and profiles, as well as some policies and rules at the level appropriate for us. As an MSP, I'm going to have a little bit more in the management levels than I would see in, say, an internal IT department, but I need to be able to manage this at the MSP level, the client level, and the department level. For internal IT, I need to be able to handle this at the organization and the department level. I am going to standardize across my business so that the configuration and management of devices, or the configuration of management of devices, is simplified as much as I can. UEM platforms are also going to bring in features like patch management, health and performance monitoring, mobile device management capabilities, remote access and support tools, reporting and data analytics, as well as network device items. So we focused a lot on Windows, Mac, and Linux as we've been going through this. Those have been my examples. But don't think your firewall, your routers, your switches, your printers are escaping from this. Again, we're looking at holistic environment management. Okay. The automate side of this, building off of that manage, we need scalable automation for proactive and consistent IT service delivery. Okay, consistent IT operations. And we need to look at doing this through automation because it's going to remove our manual effort like we talked about earlier. But on the flip side, it's also going to remove inconsistencies. I'm going to do something different than you. Lewis Pope, our security head nerd, is going to do something different from me and from you. Right? And automation allows us to build scalable and repeatable SOPs that are standardized across our business. Humans are very, very, very good at solving complex and unique problems. Automation through PowerShell, Python, Bash, Ruby, whatever you're using, that's very, very good at solving repetitive and redundant problems. Machines are very good at doing what they're told. Humans are very good at thinking out of the box, right? Let's take those two highly unique skill sets from those two sets of resources and have them work as best as possible together. And automation is a key to the game here. Right. The other thing it allows us to do is, especially as we're going through maintenance and we're going through our general health items and we're going through, say, trying to automate the top 10 tickets that come in through our ticketing solution, okay, is we are looking at proactive management of our problems. I don't want to, in today's day and age, be reactive, at least in device management. As much as I can, do I want to be proactive? Right? The reactive stuff, I want to leave that for the security team. Right? Device management needs to be here. And we look at accomplishing that in more modern UEM or unified endpoint management platforms, from pre-built automation policies for routine tasks that could be deployed, again, at that MSP, at that client, at that site level, or that location level, or at the organization and the department level. Okay. We have granularity and flexibility in custom workflows and the mapping of those workflows. Okay. We have custom scripting options with built-in generative AI to assist in the creation of that. Right? We touched on self-healing, right? Proactive maintenance, but also proactive or self-healing remediation automated in. Okay. And then we have our integrate pillar or column here, right? And a UEM needs to feature seamless interoperability across IT and security ecosystems. These platforms have to integrate with a wide range of tools to unify workflows and enhance visibility. The more I can see, the better I'm going to be at my job. The more I can see, the easier I have reporting. The more information my techs have, the better they're going to perform their day-to-day services, especially when it comes to things like security and IT ecosystems working together. Easy integration with your tech stack, not just the vendor's tech stack, right? And we're talking about things like PSAs or ticketing solutions, security tool integrations, backup tool integrations, recovery tool integrations. And this can be driven from broad out-of-the-box integrations, or it can be driven through extensive access to REST APIs with AI assistance for creating those custom integrations and those workflows. And then the final pillar here, and the one that I think, at least in today's day and age, is probably the most important, is the secure. Whether we come from internal IT or we come from MSP space, the first three of those pillars, integrate, manage, and automate, those are things we've been doing for years. But the ability to start bringing our security stack into a unified endpoint management platform is key. We need to be looking at the ability to continually manage and monitor risk, simplify resilience, and address compliances. Modern UEMs embed security into endpoint operations to ensure a strong and adaptive defense posture through the ability to, say, integrate endpoint protection, an endpoint detection and response tool, a managed detection and response tool. So you have your EDRs, your MDRs, your XDRs, right? It also is going to bring in encryption capabilities, backup and data protection for workstations, servers, Microsoft 365. We're going to have built-in vulnerability management and insight. Things like automated patching and configuration enforcement. Okay? Things like risky user reporting, security posture management, role-based access controls, Microsoft Cloud Management, and protection for M365 users, Azure resources, and Intune devices. And while in the past we have, I don't want to say we haven't applied the importance necessary to this particular piece, right? What we're seeing as we move more to the cloud, as we move more into a wider range of SaaS products we manage for our end users, as we move forward in the complexity of our tech stack evolving, the threat actors get more complex with this. So any ability we have to start simplifying our security management and simplify our security suite is quite nice for us. Not to mention that we're able to look at simplifying response, simplifying reporting and remediation, simplifying any notification or monitoring we may need. Okay. So getting the most out of this unified endpoint management platform, right? What are we looking for here, right? And we're starting with, right, the why. It's not just about managing devices, right? It's about transforming how your IT and service delivery operates, right? As we go and we bring full value out of our UEM, right? We go beyond basic device control and start to think more strategically about how we are going to provide those services, right? We look at things like optimizing for efficiency, right? Having a platform that can very easily help us identify repetitive, time-consuming, and redundant tasks, patching, software deployment, compliance checks, and automate them and the remediation with them. Okay. Again, we repeat and we say again that frees up our technicians. It reduces human error. It speeds up our response time, and it frees your team to focus, frees up your team to put its time towards higher value work. Okay. It's not a set it and forget it type thing. It's a set it and scale it. Right? The name of the game when it comes to optimizing your efficiency is, at its core, create scalability and repeatability through consistency. Okay. It gives us the ability to look at standardizing our operations. We're enforcing consistent configuration policies across our devices. Right? We're deploying our security tools through this particular platform. We're standardizing security, simplifying troubleshooting, and ensuring predictable end user experiences. Right? So not only here are we coming in and looking at creating and deploying security controls and managing those controls through this tool, right? Or leveraging audit logs to be brought in, produced by some type of SIM integration. Right? Whether we're using this for something like XDR services and threat research, or we're looking at going even further to be in a full true MDR service delivery, if we're going into any type of reporting we may need around these security controls that we've deployed and we're managing, right? It gives us all of this information we're going to need, and it helps with the onboarding and the offboarding. It helps with our auditing. Okay. We see that we're unifying our IT and our security operations here. So with these little bullet points as we're going through this slide, right, note that these things bleed over into each of these particular categories, right? The UEM acts as the bridge between IT and security teams, enabling shared visibility and coordinated action. It brings in vulnerability management in a fashion that we haven't had before, and it becomes more effective at this as it's a part of a unified approach. We can identify unpatched systems, enforce remediation policies, track them across the environment, right? Then we can have that alignment, ensuring that vulnerabilities are not only detected but prioritized, and then our EDR or our MDR or our XDR, whatever of these security tools that we are using, aren't going to be throwing up so many alerts because we have a vulnerability that hasn't been detected, right? We've got that handled automatically. Let's free those tools up and the folks that are using them for more complicated things, right? Improving threat response, improving threat research, right? Uncovering gaps in your security stance that need to be plugged. Because in today's day and age, and I know we've heard this for years, but I cannot repeat it enough, it is when, not if. It is when, not if, we see a security event. Right? Don't have to call it an incident, but just an event. Okay. And how does our threat response, how does our remediation response, how does the automation from this UEM help us get better there? So the value of these UEMs lies not just in managing the endpoints, okay, but again, going through and transforming how you work. Automate your manual and repetitive and redundant items, standardization, and unify IT and security together. Improve the visibility so you have faster, more informed, and more effective responses to the issues that you're seeing in your environment. Okay. So what we've seen within our market for UEM over the past few quarters or so are two big trends. And we've looked at addressing them within the Insight environment in a few ways that we'll go over in our demo. But the two biggest trends that we've seen are in the realm of the convergence of IT and SecOps, right? So bringing in EDR and MDR, vulnerability management with priority based on exploitability and exploit volume, and then data protection plus ransomware protection, right? So converging those two IT and SecOps together to provide then the ability to operate together. And we'll take a little bit of a look at what we can do here with some of the automation that would come from our IT team to provide and deploy for our security team. And we'll take a look at a couple other options in the demo. Okay. Underneath these trends, right, not only are we wanting to accomplish these high priority items, but we're also seeing the ability to integrate the platforms that are bringing in our threat detection and response. Again, that unified reporting, right? We provide better real-time threat detection and automated remediation through these UEM platforms, right? We're able to better enforce things like zero trust, where it comes with conditional access, continuous authentication, device compliance items. Okay? And we're also better able to start looking at our restore and our data protection abilities, right? Not only are we increasing our ability to meet compliances like GDPR, HIPAA, and NIST, right? But we're also bringing in the ability to start offering services to our organization or to our end users that could be something like disaster recovery as a service, because we're able to start proactively see what's happening as something's going on. And then the other trend that we see is automation and AI. And I think this goes without saying, right? We're seeing IT process automation, where we see generative AI coming in and helping the creation of scripts, helping the creation of custom integrations, helping with the creation of customized remediation, right? We're going to see a bunch more of this as we move through today's demo. Okay, but we're also going to want to think about how we can use this for autonomous endpoint management, right? How can we use that AI and those tools behind us for automation to make sure we're enforcing policies, remediating issues, and reporting with as minimal human intervention as we need? Okay. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a look at a quick little demo inside in Central for some of the things that we can look at accomplishing within this unified endpoint platform. And bear with me as I thought I was popping over. Aha, there we go. We should see N-Central on the screen now. Okay. So within N-Central, quick little geography of what we're going to be dealing with this. We're going to look at this a bit more from an MSP's point of view rather than an internal IT department, because that's how my system's set up here. So over on the left-hand side, I will have all of my individual clientele and my individual customers, as well as departments and such, broken up here. So I'm going to come down to the enable heading. Okay, so I can not only see the customer underneath enable, I can see individual sites should I need. Okay, and I can see individual granularity of how I want to look at dividing up these devices, these locations, into departments as I can. Over on the left-hand side, we're going to control a lot of our more general actions that we want to take. Do I want to perform any reporting? Do I want to take action across multiple devices? Do I want to generate a policy controlling the off and on of features and functions with the ability to apply rules to it to determine scope and push it out across a site, a client, a organization, or an entire base of clientele, or my MSP as a whole for that matter? Okay. Inside this all devices view, okay, I'm going to be able to see my individual devices, and I'm going to be able to take action on them as I would need. Now, there's a large amount that I can do directly from the dashboard here without even entering into a device, right? Especially since we've been talking about remediation and response. If I have something that does require hands-on remediation, I can come through quite quickly and come to command prompt on that device, click start session, and I now have the ability to open up what we're going to call a remote background session. And as we're waiting for the connection here, bear with me. N-Central and GoToWebinar are not the best of friends. But what this is going to give me the ability to do is not only access my command line to perform work with my end users not being there or seeing what I'm doing, it's going to give me the ability to come in and interact with PowerShell as well. Okay, say I need to take a piece of PowerShell and run it. I can come in, copy and paste as I would need. And let's go see if we can't find a better device here for this. See if we can get one to load a little bit quicker than maybe one of those home devices. Oh, well, of course. Bear with me. Here we go. So now we're picking up what we're putting down. So again, we have the ability to start customizing our actions. We have the ability to start interacting with our devices, with our end users not knowing we're there. So I can come in and, keeping in mind that my primary point of, or my primary way of providing world-class customer service or end user services, I don't want them to know I'm there. If I'm in the background working through my command prompt, I have the ability to remove myself from that distraction or from the usual disruption that they would see when they interact with us in support. Now, that being said, at any given point in time, we are going to need to look at some point running into, I've got to take control of a device. but that doesn't mean that I've got to look at being as disruptive or as excuse me, for some reason paused sharing, as manual of a process or as lengthy of a process as it has to be. So I can come to our take control tool here, which I'll pop open real quick. And through our take control tool, okay, what I could have set up for my technicians is either the ability to hop into System Shell, right, where I can get to the command prompt, or I could pop over to PowerShell as I would need. Quick little click of a button here. But what I also have the ability to access is our support toolkit. Any mapped drive with a UNC path, I can access through my support toolkit here. So what I've seen both internal IT departments and MSPs do is look at creating a repository with good conditional access that technicians can access from their devices, where you can come in and say, okay, I want to look at running. Let's see if I can find one of my easier ones here. Oh, it looks like I don't have it as PowerShell, but that's okay. Let's see. Which one's going to be as least disruptive as possible? Ooh. BitLocker Health and Keys PowerShell. I can come in, enter in any arguments, select my permissions, run silently or not, click run, and be able to, for some reason it's unable to launch, but to be able to run that piece of PowerShell. It also might very well be that piece of PowerShell is broken. But a very simple and very easy to use tool where I can give not only the ability to do something like copy and paste, but I can give the ability to run through that support toolkit. All with the ability to say, interact with something like file transfer. Do I need to pull something off that device? Do I need to add something to it? And even look at things like remote registry access, system information where I have services, drivers, network, application information that I can come in and with a right click look at starting, stopping, ending, come in, view event logs that I may need to pull reporting from. So again, while I'm a bit more disruptive with take control up, I can do a lot here in the background with that up while my end user is just interacting with their device. I'm going to stay inside the Take Control app. I'm going to run some bits of PowerShell. I'm going to run this reporting. I'm going to pull these files. I'm going to install these items that I may need. Okay, so two very simple ways within this platform to accomplish what we're looking for. Now, that being said, we're not always the best with PowerShell. And that's something we are fully aware of here at Enable. So as I'm trying to go through these remediations and I'm coming up to things that I've traditionally done manually because I didn't think they could be PowerShelled. I didn't know how to PowerShell them. I just don't know PowerShell. I'm not the best with scripting. You'll note that we have what's called a developer portal. Now there's going to be some stuff in here that's Enable specific. Okay, inside the developer portal itself. But the vast majority of this and the way we have set this up is that it's designed to be Enable agnostic to a point. So I can come in, I can search, let's say for instance, BitLocker, and I can come in, find my BitLocker status. I'll download this script. Realize it's what's called an AMP, or Automation Manager Policy. We'll talk about these in a second in a little bit more detail. that doesn't get me my PowerShell. What I need is the ability to monitor PowerShell. So can I monitor using PowerShell a device's BitLocker status? Question mark. And what we've got built into this developer portal is a generative AI that will look at helping to give us some of the solutions for what we're working for. If we're using N-central, it can work with the APIs to help you create more complicated workflows or agents. It can even come in and look at helping you generate integrations with third-party tools and the like. So we'll copy this and we'll go back to it in a second. But if I come to the recipe section here, you'll note there's just a slew of these. So regardless of you utilizing Enable Product or not, we can still utilize this developer portal. It's not behind a paywall. It's for the market to be using. Okay, so if you run into a problem, maybe think about giving us a look. We probably have something that an MSP or an internal IT department has created before. Don't recreate the wheel, right? Take what's already there and improve upon it for your particular environment, for your particular devices, for your particular needs. Okay. Real briefly, I did mention I'd talk about the automation manager. So we talk about security within our world, and we talk about utilizing a unified endpoint management tool to push our security software. So Enable has a tool called MDR. It's run by a company called Adlumin. Hey, we acquired them about 9 months ago. They offer us a managed detection and response, an XDR platform. Okay, if I want to get my agent out to devices, right, the easiest way for me to do this is going to be to go through something like N-central. So what I will utilize here is going to be a nice, simple, we'll pull it up front, script that's what we have created as an AMP. Now, this installer does have some PowerShell in it, but what we're doing with this AMP item or automation manager policy is simplifying the automation or the creation of pieces of automation. So what we'll look at here really quickly is this nice drag and drop GUI based interface. So for instance, I want to add an if else, I drag, I drop. Okay, GUI based interface where I can look at performing more complicated scripting that may be above and beyond my experience level, may be a bit too lengthy for me to write, or I'm an expert in PowerShell, I just want to save time. Platform. So here what we'll be doing is we're going to look to see if a folder exists, specifically the temporary folder. We're going to set it so if it does, what we're going to do is we're going to go into this URL. We're going to download our Adlumin installer. We're going to save it as that Adlumin MSI. And then we're going to run a script where we have pumped in a tenant ID to run that install. If we don't find temp, what we'll do is we'll create it. Then we'll go through that same process, pulling in that tenant ID. Now, what we have from this as well is the ability to put in outputs that will show up inside N-central and the ability to pull in inputs that can be pulled directly from N-central. So we have this simplified platform for automation, but we have built it into the N-central tool set. So my version of this is outside of N-central, and that's because I work on Insight. Okay. For those of you who are in Central, you can get to the same exact tool, okay, from within the tool itself. Okay. But for our purposes, we talk about those inputs and those outputs. The outputs can get pushed as a custom property, which in the particular case of installing Adlumin is what I'd like to do. And the input can be pulled from a custom property. So here underneath administration, I can come to add by customer or by device a custom property, be it date, texts, URL, dropdown, or password. So say, for instance, I want to create for a customer a text type custom property that we are going to call Adlumin ID. I can either generate I can generate my default text. So 123A, 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 1. And then I can come into my customer list here underneath that enable heading from my dashboard and choose where I would like to apply this custom property. Okay. If I do this at the device level, I get the same type of granularity, if not even more so, where I can come in and apply by OS. I can come in and apply by device class should I need. Okay. And in each of these, I'll have any associations that I'd like to add to that particular custom property. So that when I'm coming through and I'm looking at taking a scheduled task to push my Adlumin agent, so I'll come to add automation policy. Okay, you'll note I already had this loaded into our repository. So I can give it a nice little name, update asset info when finished. I can come in and I can either enter my tenant ID here. We're picking up from the automation manager that input is necessary, or I can come in and select one of those custom properties that I've already made, either at the organization or the device level. So say I had my Adlumin ID here. I have the ability to take that custom item to pump in. Come in, choose my targets. Am I going to be pulling everybody, or am I going to be pulling individuals based off of specifics? Okay. Select my schedule. When do I want it to run? How long do I want it to take? Okay. Do I need this to run at the specified time only or run as soon as possible? Devices may be offline. Should I account for them? And select my notifications for how I can, or for what I can get upon the success or the failure, and whether or not I want an email of that, or the output file as an email, to what recipient do I need? Okay, so sending it to myself, not my API. Right, so as I run this piece of automation, getting a response back that's going to give us the proper information and notifications that we need. Yeah, by all means. So I had a question here just came in. Can we have this tool, script, or monitoring service check the presence of the MDR agent? Sure, by all means. So let's hop back into our little amp here. Let's say, for instance, I want not only the temp to be my denotation of can I do this, but I can also come in and see is application installed, target my add lumen MDR, and then create this folder exists under its own specific if else tree. Does the folder exist, or does the application exist? Yes or no. If it doesn't, does temp exist? Yes or no. Create temp or just install. If it does exist, check to make sure temp, just to make sure we're there. If it isn't, create it, exit automation policy. Right? So I'll have the ability to pull that information or adjust this information to target as I would need. Now, the other side of that is, you'll note in my targets, you're going to see filters here. What I can do with filters is based off of specifications where I'm looking at application, device, hardware, monitoring items, networking items. I could even do something such as this. Create. Now, your filter is going to be much more complicated than this, right? Simple demo action here. But I can create a filter where we don't see any application that contains add lumen. And then once that filter is created for my scheduled task, let's come back into this add amp real quick. I can target my filter that's no add lumen. Okay, so quickly and easily pulling that in. The nice part about filters on top of that is you'll notice in the all device view, I have the ability to access my filters, be it device type or custom created filters as I would need. So in the deployment operation for our security tools here, get as granular or as general as you would like. Go ahead, run the amp that makes sure the device has the piece of security software on every machine and get the output that way. Create a filter that gives you more granularity and control over, I need to find all Windows 10 devices that don't have an add lumen agent on them, or an EDR agent on them, or a backup, be a Cove or Veeam or Datto or whomever agent on them. Right? And then as we go through, we can export those views for our filters for simple reporting, or even come into something like our analytics view, where we're going to be able to report on monitoring. We're going to be able to report on patching compliance, warranty info, agent last check-in, come into individual reports for hardware inventory, right? Disk usage trending, manage devices by OS and reporting associated with them, software inventory, and the like. Okay, so everything within this platform, and I know we showed just a couple simple and quick pieces of demo today, is designed to start building on top of each other, right? We talk about the developer portal and the creation of integrations. There's a bunch that are built in, right? We talk about how what we need to do for monitoring and management is going to be built off of the data we want to have our hands on, which is going to build into where we're going to push, say, security software, right? We're building in layer after layer within this tool so that as my technicians are going through their day-to-day, they are able to stay within reasonably one platform. Right? Am I going to want to do something like initiate a rollback on Sentinel-1 because a piece of ransomware has been found directly from this dashboard? Probably not. I'm going to want to be interacting with my XDR tool. I'm going to want to be within Sentinel-1. Right? But do I want this tool to manage the deployment and the monitoring of Sentinel-1 so I don't have to continually shift across dashboards? By all means. Do I want this platform to be able to come in and as I look through my monitors on a device, I can come in and create a ticket directly within my ticketing platform? Right? Can I then get that ticketing platform to start talking outside of just itself? Right? Look at what we can do with something like Halo PSA. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. and how much automation they have over there. If we can get that PSA and this dashboard talking together, not only do you have basic remediation and automation within that PSA platform based off of its AI, right? You've got reporting and data and research being done within this unified endpoint management tool, so that when your technicians go into that ticket, they know that some of the basics have already been taken care of. They also know that that platform was able to pull pertinent research that they don't have to waste their time doing. They can start going through the data to come up with the actions and remediation necessary. We can give them a head start on all our tickets. Okay. So just a lot that we can look at doing in here. Now, that being said, you'll have to excuse me. I do have another webinar coming up in just a few moments. So we're going to hop back over to the presentation. And of course, as you guys have questions, please ask them. We'll throw up some QR codes here. If you use N-Central and you want to learn more, scan the QR code. We'll get you in touch with an SE or a PSE. We'll get you in touch with a head nerd that can review the SOP or can review the dashboard process or review the function you're looking at using and start working with you to get that implemented in a fashion of your choosing. If you're not with Enable or N-Central, go ahead, look at starting up a free trial. Okay. And then lastly, before we leave, I do have one poll just to kind of learn a little bit more here. That would be, what are your next steps within Central? If you're currently using it, great. Do you want to learn more about it? Do you want to speak with somebody on the sales team because it is something you're interested in? Or if we're satisfied with where we're sitting today, by all means, select the appropriate box. We'll keep that up for just another couple moments. And then we'll go ahead and we'll end that poll. All right. I know we didn't. Oh, that was the last slide. We'll keep that up then. I know we didn't get to demo as much as we wanted to within the N-Central platform today. Right? We spent a little bit more time on UEM and why it's important to us. Okay. There's numerous resources out there for you folks. By all means, if you selected learn more, someone's going to reach out to you. Okay. You can also find us on youtube.com. Sorry for cutting out there. My headset decided it was going to die, so hot swap some batteries real quick. So we have youtube.com/n-ableu. So n-ableu. You'll find a bunch of head nerd content in there. You'll find a bunch of automation content in there. You'll find PowerShell, Python. You'll find Bash if you're in the Mac world. You'll find how to get started content, just a slew of information there should you need it as well. It's been a pleasure leading this particular masterclass. Should you guys have any questions, again, please feel free to reach out to me. You can always catch me at Joseph, JOSEPH.Ferla, FERLA @enable.com. We'll look forward to talking to you later.